From the entire Truth Talks family to Malcolm's family, we send our deepest condolences. What up, truth tellers? Welcome to the show. What's something the world gets wrong about Black mothers? Hit me in the chat. Let me know what you think. Smash that like button while you're there. Shout out to Mr. Block Ice 22, Charlotte esthetician lash artist. Let me start with this about Black mothers. 3 words that trigger most of America. Single Black mom. A lot of people are celebrating that woman, judging her, misunderstanding her. More often than not, she is choosing by default to be that, not wanting to be that. Today, we're myth-busting the stereotypes and digging into the real reasons why more and more Black women are choosing to parent alone. You may think it's abandonment, broken systems, bad partners, bad Black men, but a lot of Black women are choosing single motherhood as the path for them that feels better, that feels safer. We're going to have Eboni K. Williams, my longtime friend, on the show today as somebody who is doing single Black motherhood by choice in a really beautiful way. She's exhausted, but resilient, barely holding it together like so many single Black moms, but making it work day by day. This one's about grace, grief, and what happens when strength is expected and support is optional. Tap in, family, hit the subscribe button on Truth Talks Live and buckle up. This ain't surface talk. This is Truth Talks. Let's go.
Are y'all ready to roll? Let's go.
All right, everybody, welcome to Truth Talks. The aforementioned superstar single mother, Eboni K. Williams, is here. How are you, my sister?
Torre, great to see you. So excited to be joining the team here at Truth Talks. I know it's going to be a fabulous conversation as always.
Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation with you, especially because we talked about you wanting to have this motherhood journey very thoughtfully and intentionally before it happened. So now that you're in the midst of it, I want to hear about how it's going, right?
Yeah.
We also have Dr. Sarah Fontaine. Fontenot.
It's an ongoing joke. What's up, guys? I'm so happy to be here and super excited to see you, Eboni. Oh my gosh, I love your voice, girl. It is like, it's giving audiobook. It's giving soothing. It's giving, information. I just love it. And I'm happy to be here with all of you today. Let's get it.
Wow. She never said that about your voice, Dr. Bryant.
She doesn't have to because she echoes everything my voice says. Moving on. What's up, truth tellers? It's your favorite doc, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, the one that spits it real, that spits the gems. And whether you like me or not, you're listening and you're getting something from it. So it is what it is. We're going to have a good show today. Hope you're ready, Torre.
It is a nice voice. It is, when I get beyond the things you say, it is actually a nice sounding voice. Like when you're just saying like just vanilla things, I'm like, wow, it's kind of nice. Then you get into your doctor stuff and I'm like, oh God, make it stop.
Make it stop now.
All right, let's get into it. We got a lot to get into. Up next, trending truths.
Hey everybody, Judge Lauren Lake here. Listen, I need you to head on over to YouTube weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Why? Because your favorite judge, I'm one of the new co-hosts of Truth Talks Season 2. And guess what? We're live every night at 8 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube, only at Truth Talks-Live. I'll see you there.
Love Judge Lauren. Trending truths. All right. This week, shots fired on the internet, but that's always every week on the internet. But Shaquille O'Neal promised to punch Robert Griffin III in the mouth if he came for his sister, Angel Reese, again. Look at this.
Update. Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq, has threatened RG3 over him disparaging Angel Reese. Here it is.
Speaking of man, RG3, tweet another monkey post about my girl Angel Reese. I'm punching your face. Okay? It's enough. Like, I don't usually do stuff like this, but just stop it, bro. You got your job, you got your podcast, leave my Angel Reese alone. I'm the one calling her and telling her not to respond. Stop it. That's the last time.
Ooh, man. RG3 reposted a racist monkey post of Angel Reese's NBA 2K26 WNBA cover and amplified the hateful image. I'm questioning, is this the feud that spotlights broader issues of racism, sexism, and Black accountability? Like, especially in how Black athletes or those of color are talked about and portrayed. So athletes are often chastised for not upholding the entire Black plight and or told to shut up and dribble. But real talk, do we need more Shaqs, Shaquille O'Neals? Do we need more of that energy and less of the RG3 in this climate?
Absolutely. Listen, first of all, there's nothing like a man checking a man. And we need more men checking men. Women don't need to sit up here and chastise or go toe to toe with another man when we have brothers like Shaq who can say, hold on, listen, it's one thing to have your opinion about somebody. We are all, it's okay to have that. But when you're talking about being a Black man, any man of any race, and you're calling another woman who's Black a monkey, it's like, I think Shaq and every man, especially Black man, should have been on his ass. I know Ryan Clark, a good friend of mine, does a good job of keeping RG3's name in his mouth while he's checking his ass, because he's continuously having something to say, and I believe projecting his identity crisis on the Black community, when it's like, bro, listen, you got Stephen A. You got a lot of people who have a strong opinion about what they don't like about a lot of athletes, male or female, and what they do like, but it never gets to the point where you are ridiculing, you are overtly racism towards somebody who you're speaking on. I just think it's terrible. And kudos to my guy, Big Shaq, the Big Diesel, for even saying something and checking. Because again, I stand on, there's nothing like a man, especially a Black man, checking another man of any race behind a woman, and especially a Black woman.
Sarah, I totally agree with that, but I want to go in a slightly different direction. I don't need our Black media figures to be platforming racist imagery. It almost becomes like trauma porn. Like, look at this racist thing. And we can do that every single day of the week. Look at this horrifically racist thing I found about Michelle Obama, Angel Reese, Serena Williams, whoever. And we don't need to see that. I don't need to see that. So like the whole, whatever RG3 was trying to do in bringing this to the light, I didn't need that. That could stay in the fever swamps. I'm looking to you for some analysis, some deeper understanding of what's happening in these games and with these athletes, the narratives that they're living through, not whatever crazy white supremacist thing that somebody made up in the corner of the internet for you to show us all.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also feel like even more so, did we not learn anything from H&M? Wasn't it their company that put the monkey on their shirt and they were almost canceled because of how that went? And it's no different here. We already know that people are very passionate and also sensitive to us continuously being portrayed in a negative light or in a racist manner. And it's not okay. This is a new and upcoming star inside of the WNBA, although she's already been a star already. And I am grateful for voices like Shaq. I am grateful because he's an icon, everlasting icon. And one thing that I do have to say that I really just appreciate him is how he's always taking accountability. When he did the thing, when Shawnee came out and she spoke against him, he took accountability. He's protecting our Black women. And I think that we do need to see more of that, because then other people that don't have his level of clout, of power or clout won't say the same things because they know they'll get called out too. I think it's great.
Eboni, what do you think?
I think every day is a good day to quote the legendary Malcolm X when he talks about the most disrespected, dismissed, and unprotected person in America is the Black woman. And this is case in point, right? So, of course, I joined the chorus of celebration of Brother Shaquille standing in protection, standing in the protective posture that is so necessary and so often not filled, when it comes to a Black woman. And let us note that Angel Reese is a very young Black woman, as Sarah noted, just really emerging in her superstardom. So it's really important. And I think it makes a good precedent when a multiple NBA champion like Shaquille O'Neal, a cultural legend, an icon, leads what that protective posture looks like. I do want to get into what you mentioned, though, as well, Touré. And I think it's a nuanced point, but it's an important one. Now, I'm generally not in alignment or agreement with RG3, period. And also, if we look at what he contends was his intention with the retweet of the monkey image, but then you read the caption, "I don't stand for Black women being portrayed." That's actually what he said. But hear me out. I don't know if it was pure ignorance, possibly, or if it was subtextually, let me throw rocks and hide my hands. But regardless, RG3 or anybody else that's proclaiming to try to right a wrong as it relates to the demonization and dishumanity of Black people and Black women, don't promote the trauma porn in the process. So if we take him at his word, if we take him on face value that you really were trying to condemn this aggressive and disrespectful theme around Angel Reese as putting her in this monkey, positioning, whatever that was, do us all a favor and don't then promote and amplify the harmful, traumatic image in the process. It undermines, if you really meant well, and that's a big if, you've certainly undermined that in the retweet.
1% of me does hope that RG3 has more to say, because I would really like to see Shaq punch him in the face, just on general principle for the many things.
That's where we agree on, Touré. That's why this is our first agreement in this episode. I hands down agree with you on that. I would buy a freaking ringside ticket to that, and I would treat all y'all with me. You don't have to buy your tickets, okay?
$100 pay-per-view. Cheyenne got all of you down. Let's go.
Yes.
Story number 2, Shannon Sharpe has a good day and a shocking twist. Shannon Sharpe has quietly settled the lawsuit that was lobbed at him for $50 million when a white woman accused him of rape. The case that rocked the sports media world after his viral live sex performance has ended with an undisclosed settlement. Let's take a look.
Shannon Sharpe has settled a sexual assault lawsuit. According to his lawyer, the Hall of Fame tight end and former Denver Bronco had offered at least $10 million to settle the claim before the suit was filed in April. Now he's likely paying an amount that exceeds that. The terms of the settlement were not disclosed. Lawsuit originally sought damages of more than $50 million. Sharpe strongly denied the allegations. He stepped away from his job at ESPN, vowing that he would return when NFL preseason begins. That's not far off, and it's not clear if he'll be back.
Eboni, Shannon has maintained his innocence throughout all this. He's called the lawsuit baseless and defamatory, yet he has settled. Why do you think he chose to settle as opposed to, say, fight it the way we saw Jay-Z do recently?
So it's a few reasons, right? And this is really just civic tort 101, right? Sometimes it's just advantageous to settle, even if, there's no admission of guilt per se. It's not worth the continued public scrutiny. It's certainly not worth the continued commercial loss, the revenue loss from all the things he's going to be literally sidelined for, not invited on, not able to do the live touring for the podcast that him and Chad Ochocinco have, not able to be appearing on ESPN during this time. Just if for no other reason than to get your bread back up, let's go ahead and adjudicate this. Now, I'm not saying that all those opportunities are going to come rushing back to him, by the way, but certainly he at least puts himself in position to be a working man again, which right now he barely is. Go ahead, Touré.
Settling for most people who aren't in the legal profession suggests guilt. Even if you say no admission of guilt, most people hear, oh, you're admitting you did something.
Yeah, but so what we know is Shannon Sharpe and his attorney Busby here decided that even to that conclusion that most people are still going to think you probably did something or all of it, it's still worth the risk. This is a calculation that says, maybe I am forever tarnished and perceived as problematic in this area of sex assault and sex abuse, and that is a risk we are going to be willing to take as opposed to let even probably more damning and horrific things come out in a trial. So you got to look at what's on the other side of trial, Touré. That's not typically a clean, fast, or easy route to take. It might vindicate you. You might come out on the other side in a redeemed capacity, but everything it takes to get there, if you get there, can be very costly. The last thing I'll say is this. I remember Shannon Sharpe saying, and this went viral shortly after the lawsuit was filed, that he believes in response to Monique and many other aunties in the community saying, you need to date a woman your age. Shannon Sharpe's response was, I think I should date my rate. Well, I have good news for Shannon Sharpe. He can say he's dating his rate. And what we now know the rate was in excess of $10 million, which was the original settlement offer. Yeah, it's good.
Ooh, child. Ooh, child.
So now the rate is established. It's fabulous.
Ooh, child.
Eboni, you slay me. Cheyenne, what you got to say?
The rates and the race and the age are all established. Yeah, I just think that it was a smart move for his attorneys to say, hey, let's just settle and get this shit out the way. Let's not drag it on. He had that $100 million deal that was sitting on the table, right when this simultaneously came out, and it totally tarnished that deal from what I was told. And so to say, listen, let's cash out, let's put all this shit aside so we can move forward and we can double up on that 50 million. I think it was a smart decision. I also think that the stress that puts on somebody affects them showing up for work, affects how they do, how they show up when they're attempting to be on tour, when they're attempting to work, And so I think that all in all, if you got the money and you feel like, hey, I did do it, but I don't want this to go publicly, or I didn't do it, but I don't want this to drag on. It's affecting me mentally. It's affecting work. It's affecting contracts. And I'm just trying to do my thing. Hey, you know what? Pay it off and move on. And that's exactly what they did. So, I hope that if Shannon didn't do it, that he's able to redeem and recoup his deals and even bigger deals and move forward, because it did seem like a case where, the young lady totally set this man up, and it happens too often. And if that was the case, I do hope that he does, restore and redeem that plus tenfold of what he had to cash out in this civil case.
Yeah, and his image is, go ahead, Sarah.
I do think that he will redeem, because I do think that the people are writing for Shannon. And I say that because, even after he went forward and came public and said what he had to say, it seems like it really died down. We were all into it. We were invested for a couple of weeks. And then over these last couple of months, it kind of died down. And now it's coming back up because we're getting a decision out of it. I do think that the timing of it all, to me, screams setup. Just like Dr. B was saying, this is giving a setup. This is another young woman. And at the end of the day, there's just so much evidence that I saw. Now, I'm not a judge. I don't know. I don't know what this man did. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm not saying he's guilty. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, some people are freaky and they want to do what they want to do. And I think this was role play. And I hope that this man does live it down if he didn't do it.
Well, I will say this, Dr. Sarah, it was expensive role play if it was indeed that. And the other piece, and again, let's just speak on the consequences across the board as to what this type of choice on Shannon's big aged part looks like. And the other piece is this. We just must put all the elements on the table. It did quiet down, Sarah. You're right, because he got overshadowed by a little case called the United States of America v. Sean Combs.
Yeah.
Freudian slip on the Sean Carter piece. More on that later. But yeah, on Sean Combs. And I think he is benefiting from the news cycle. That's all. Yep.
A little bit, but the image has been tainted, and we're going to see how Shannon can revive from that. Moving on. This has been an absolutely wild week in politics. The Epstein list is up next in politicking.
What's up, True Fam? It's your girl, Cheyenne. And yes, season 2 of True Talks is here, and we are turning up even higher.
Yo, it's your man, Torre, the newest co-host on the set, and I'm bringing heart, heat, and hard truth every night.
And we are keeping it all the way fire. Ain't no filters, ain't no fluff, just straight facts. Y'all know how we do.
So stop scrolling and pull up to our YouTube at Truth Talks-Live. Like, subscribe, and smash that bell.
And after you do that, join us, because we go live weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern on all the coasts. Wherever you are, from culture to controversy, we say what everyone else is scared to say.
We talk truth. Season 2 of Truth Talks. Let's go. Because this time, we ain't asking. We're taking the mic. As Eboni said, everyone's been locked in on the Diddy case lately. Meanwhile, the FBI and Congress are out here defiantly sweeping the whole Jeffrey Epstein file situation under the rug. Files that allegedly linked Trump to underage girls. They want to say nothing to see here. Just move on. There actually was no list. What were you talking about? Stephen A. Smith got all in the mess. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
With all of these things that's going on, that the left didn't want to happen, that you on the right said you wanted to happen, with the borders being closed, supposedly that being handled, with migrants being escorted out of this country in droves, according to you, and what you wanted, you're in an uproar off the Epstein list. That's all you've got. It's really, really surprising that this matters. Of course, I think there's a list, but I don't know. I suspect, but I have no knowledge, nor do I care. It's Friday night. I'm getting ready to go out and enjoy myself. I'm getting ready to have a nice weekend. I could give a damn about the Epstein client list. It has no effect on me whatsoever. I have a life. I don't understand for the life of me why this matters so much to these. I'm talking about people losing it. They're crying on camera. They're talking about resignations. They're pissed off about everything. I'm like, really?
Ooh, okay. So we all know that Trump is on that list. We know it. But here's the question. And I have this on twofold, right? Because I'm Canadian, and where I'm from, legal age of consent is, in fact, 14 years old. Okay, that is legal age of consent. Now, in different states, it is much older than that. So in America, if Trump were to be exposed as a pedophile, is that finally the line that the cult draws? Or are they going to ride for him like nothing even happened? Do we take age into effect? Do we take all of these things into effect? And now that it's swept under the rug, what happens?
Sarah, here's part of the problem for Trump, and what Stephen A. said was really disgusting, and his entire attempt to foray into politics gets more and more embarrassing every time. He's always here to protect the powerful. It's ridiculous. But the problem here for Trump is that he kept telling his people, this is an example of corruption in government. Here's a globalist pedophile. I will do the right thing and out him and prove that I am the moral one who's working for you and doing the right thing and not falling for being part of government, not falling for being part of the scam of government protecting the powerful globalists who are actually pedophiles. And then he gets into office, and now it's like this bait and switch. He pulls away the football like Lucy, and he's like, oh, actually, there were no files. You said that there were. You were mad at Biden for not releasing them, and now we're here. So the MAGA feels lied to. And a lot of the ways that the left gets mad at MAGA for continuing to support him, they're like, that's what he said. He said he was going to be mean to immigrants. He said he was going to do this. He said, this is something he did not say. He said he was going to do the opposite. So now they feel lied to. Now they feel betrayed. And you're starting to see, yes, a crack in the MAGA constituency. It doesn't need to be 50% of MAGAs leaving. If you've just got a 15 to 20% sliver that was like, oh, well, I thought this was one of the main things we were going to do. And then they're like, I'm not interested in this anymore. This doesn't have the same honesty. Then you see a crack in the MAGA constituency.
I mean, I would agree. What do you think, Eboni? How do you feel about this whole Trump being now pulling it back? You know, is he really flipping the script on MAGA? Is this really that important? Like, where do you lie on this topic?
I think Tura makes a good point about how slim the margin can be to make a long-term political difference. But the reality is Trump won't run again. So I don't know that it matters as much in that way. We'll come back, Tura. Okay, ooh. We see. Noted. Okay. But I will say, a little lesser known T. No, to answer your question directly, Sarah, I don't think it will make a significant difference in the way his general cult of personality following will support and ride for him. Here is why. I have a robust pageant background, particularly in the Miss USA system. Trump was the owner for a very long time of the Miss Universe organization. That included Miss Universe, Miss USA, and Miss what? Teen USA. Mm-hmm. And it was well known, well talked about, we'll say, in the Miss Universe community that Trump often would go backstage and have what many classified as inappropriate dealings, conversations, touching of the smalls of backs, sizing up, looking up and down like they were on a chopping block, teen girls. So this notion of this being breaking news that Trump could possibly have inappropriate dealings with underage girls is really not all that new. This has been quiet as kept in the most literal sense for a very long time. And I don't think that there's ever going to be a consequence when it comes to Donald Trump and these types of activities.
All of that true. I just don't want folks to say, well, he's termed out and he won't be running again, because I fully suspect he will use all the power that he has to try to remain in the presidency through 2028.
Oh, through 2028.
Okay. Yeah, totally. I just think this is the thing. This is a man we're talking about who said that it's okay for him to grab a woman by their PUSSY. He said that, out loud, didn't expect it to hit the TV screens, media, but he also said so many things that tell us exactly who he is. I always say there's one thing you can definitely guarantee somebody to do is to be their damn self. And when we're talking about Trump being who he is, which is this narcissist, this very dictatorship personality, this I do what I want to do when I do it, especially in a time back with this Epstein stuff, these guys didn't have social media like we have. They were moving and grooving and rocking and rolling and having no type of evidence, no cell phone videos, nothing going on. It felt like they would be able to continue to do this narrative, this rhetoric, and this sexual abuse on not just children, but adult women as well, in any form and fashion that they want to. This shit is just now coming to the forefront because we have so many people who now have access to documents, that have access to information, and we have something called social media, not just media, that's saying, listen, I'm going to expose everything about anyone because a couple things. Either they think it's wrong or they're clout chasing. One or two. Either way, it's putting people in a place of having to take accountability and answer to the things that they've done way back in the past. So I'm not surprised that Trump did this. Do I think that the Republican Party is surprised? No. Do I think they feel like he's let them down because of this one isolated incident? Hell no. I think the Republican Party looks at this fool like this clown is running an entire circus. And there's things he's doing that we thought he would do. And there's things he's doing that we had no fucking idea that this man was going to even try to do. But everybody, I feel for the most part, I mean, I'll say everybody, majority of people of all parties, I believe is thinking, who in the fuck is our leader? What the fuck is he talking about? And where in the fuck is he bringing us to? It looks like a ditch.
I wish that was the way the right was looking at it, but his approval rating among Republicans has gone up a couple ticks. So they continue to think that he is the greatest thing. Eboni, quickly, one more thing. The DOJ just fired Maureen Comey from the SDNY, who a longtime prosecutor there, who surely must know some things about that situation with the Epstein file that you wouldn't want somebody just walking around knowing if you're the Trumpies. I don't think that was a very smart strategic move to let her go when she could whisper to any reporter and blow Trump's lid off.
But she wouldn't, because she's ethically bound not to. And I actually believe most of us that take that oath as attorneys take it seriously. Here's the other thing, though. I actually think she should have gotten fired, Epstein aside, because she totally fucked up that Diddy trial. She really, really did.
But prosecutors don't get fired for that sort of thing, right? Like
they do. Actually, they do. When your office is being scrutinized on a global scale, as that office was with this particular high-profile case, which they'll never probably see the likes of again in the next 10 years. No, her ass needed to go. And the also good news, Touré, is she's not the only one privy to the details and the files and the evidence of what the DOJ might have over Trump.
But we're not pretending that she was fired because of the Diddy trial. That had nothing to do with it.
I do think it did. Why would you say it had nothing to do with it?
No, this is about Jim Comey. This has nothing to do with the deal.
No, but why would you say it has nothing to do with it?
Because generally prosecutors are not fired for that sort of reason. And
yes, they are. Where do you get that from?
I've absolutely who's like, it's not appropriate.
The biggest case. Go ahead.
Guys, I'm just going to chime in really quick here because I do think that this needs to be a whole episode where we talk about this whole topic. So I don't want us to get so far off topic that we get away from what we were saying. But Eboni, go ahead, finish that thought, and then let's bring it in and make that a whole topic for another day.
Sure. So I'll say this. I'll hold space for what Touré is saying, that there might have been and probably is a multitude, including political motivation behind Jim Comey's daughter getting fired. And also, I'm personally not going to sit up here because I've seen it with my own two eyes. Prosecutors at the state and federal level get the pink slip because you fucked up the biggest case that this office has seen.
Black America better pay attention because the same elite networks that are covering up their crimes are the ones that control our policies, our prisons, our platforms. We're going to keep going on Truth Talks. Up next, Real Talk.
What up, Truth fam? It's your man, Touré. And I know you've been wondering where you've been. I ain't gone nowhere. I leveled up. Slide over to our brand new YouTube channel at Truth Talks-Live. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell like it owes you something. Because we come in live every weeknight at 8 p.m. and it's about to get really real. Yeah, the truth still hurts, but that's exactly why you need it. Season 2 is bigger, bolder, and blacker than ever. unfiltered convos, expert takes, and uplifting moments. We're calling it out, breaking it down, and lifting up the culture in real time. We're not holding back, and we're not sugarcoating nothing, and we're not going to let anybody rewrite our narratives. So tune in, pull up, and get ready to speak truth. Live with Truth Talk Season 2. For the people, for the culture, every damn night at 8 p.m. Let's get into the main topic on Real Talk. She works 2 jobs, cooks the meals, wipes the tears, drives to sports events, and still gets told that's not enough. We call her a strong Black mother, but keep it a buck. A mother is a teacher, a nurse, a counselor, a chef, a maid, a chauffeur, a referee, a best friend, all in one. It's a lot. You are everything for that child. So tonight, let's ask the uncomfortable questions, the real questions. Are we truly honoring single Black mothers or just using her strength to ignore her pain? And has the image of the strong Black mother unintentionally sidelined Black fathers? This 2-part roundtable is going to go deep into the roles, rifts, and realities of Black family dynamics today, from parenting to pride to presence. Up first, the role of the single Black mom. Tomorrow, we're going to check in with the single Black father. Let's take a look at what the sister had to say.
I don't think that any of us have a child or get pregnant with the intent of, oh, I want to wake up and be a single mom. I don't think that many people went into their situations or their journeys like that. And so however you got into this position that you're in right now as being a single mom, I want you to just take a step back, be very kind to yourself, and to forgive yourself. I think oftentimes we can't parent how we want to because we're full of shame and we're full of guilt. And so sometimes it's like, oh man, I wanted to raise my kids in a 2-parent household, or I messed up, or you're just feeling like you failed. And so for anyone who feels like they have failed today, I just want to affirm you and say you did not fail.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So Eboni, question to you, sis. I know that you chose to be a single mama, right?
Yes.
Are there any regrets to not being a mother, but to being the single mama that you chose to come into?
Let me say this, Cheyenne. For me, heavy on for me.
Yeah.
Outside of completing and earning my law degree, carrying and birthing and now raising my daughter Liberty is the best decision I've ever made. So I don't have a single regret for me. And I do want to just hold the space for the sister we just heard from, because I think that these are 2 very distinct experiences. When you're talking about a single Black mother who has found herself in that circumstance, not by her own choosing, but by circumstances, that is a very different lens and experience. As she said, that is something that tends to involve shame, tends to involve grief is a really big one. You know, having to grieve the loss of an idealized version of what your motherhood experience and family would look like. That is almost polar opposite, y'all, from what the single moms by choice experience is and looks like. It is rooted in consciousness. It is rooted in intention and design to go about your motherhood and parenting journey in the solo capacity. And there's a litany of reasons why one would choose to do this, but I just want to hold the space and honor the experience of single Black women that find themselves as solo moms, single moms, due to circumstance and not choice. And I think it's very important as we have this conversation now that we do not conflate the two, because those are 2 very different lenses.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I want to say, hold on, Touré, hold on one second. I want to say this, Eboni, because when I heard your story on an interview you did, it might have been a year ago, right before either you got pregnant or chose to, but you were talking about your journey. And then I heard, whoa, she did choose to do it on her own. I was extremely inspired. I felt extremely empowered by your agency over yourself as a woman, body, and even more, your time. You did it on your time. You did it your way. And I was in such admiration of that. And I remember sending your post on your page to my best friend going, girl, now, regardless of what it looks like, this woman took agency over her time, her choice, and her life, and she created and structured it how she wanted to. So kudos to you. I want to give you your flowers, because I feel like a lot of women, many women, especially Black women, need to take agency over their time and create and manifest what they want to do with that without having to feel like they need to be codependent on some outside force, even if that outside force happens to be a man that they're waiting for. So kudos to you. I love that you did that. That was very empowering.
Thank you, darling. That means a lot. Thank you.
I appreciate that, and I respect wanting to hold space for the other sister. Your choice, your situation. Do you not sometimes say, I do wish I had another person here, another set of hands to handle this situation? Because sometimes parenting is difficult. The baby is crying. The bottle needs to be made. I just need another person to help me out through this situation.
Yeah. So now I'm going to go ahead and tell this, what's this show called? Truth Talks. So let's talk about some truth, right? I am an affluent woman. I'm an affluent woman. And because I'm an affluent woman who earns at the very top income bracket of the nation, I hire those hands, Touré. I hire those hands. So the first form, and I know that this might be a little taboo to go straight to the jugular here, but I think it's very important because often when we're talking about single Black moms in particular and single moms broadly, we are assuming that it's a story rooted in poverty. We're assuming that it is a story rooted in struggle. Thank God I don't live that story. Thank God I am positioned and have worked to ensure that that is not my story. And let me be very clear. And I'm not saying you need to be a wealthy woman to be a single mom by choice, but as somebody who was born to a single mother by circumstances, who was crippled by poverty and struggle, that would never be anything that I would choose to duplicate. So because of my affluence, because of my relatively high financial positioning, I was able to have a night nurse the first 4 months of my daughter's life. She came, I'm just telling y'all all my business. She came Monday through Friday, showed up at 8 p.m., left at 8 a.m. This allowed me to get a full 8 to 10 hours of sleep every night, barring the weekends, for the first 4 months of my daughter's life. There are married women that cannot say that. There are other single women that cannot say that. So that's what I did. I have right now, my daughter is in a bilingual French and English speaking preschool during the day. And she is also supplemented by a nanny, you know. So yes, of course, you need more than two hands. You need all hands on deck. We all grew up with the African proverb. It takes a what? Village to raise a child, you know, and that village can look like, hold on, Ray, I'm almost done. It can look like a husband. It absolutely can. It can look like, hello, we're in a broad, diverse community. It could be a wife. I can have a wife. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I could also have sorority sisters, which I do, link sisters, which I do, hired help, nannies, daycare, friends. So yes, I am blessed. And this is important, that if you're going to think about going on this journey alone, you might be solo, but there must be community, hired and community-based.
Doc, when we talk about the single, strong Black mother, we are honoring her resilience, but are we giving enough weight and holding up space for the pain, the pressure, the sacrifices that led to that situation for her in the beginning?
You know, what I love most is that Eboni gave a narrative that represents a different Black woman. She gave that narrative of a Black woman who says, hey, listen, I had my child into equity. Unlike herself, who was born into deficit. And I've created a certain environment and lifestyle that allows my child and me to thrive and mentally be healthy and be able to have this support. However, there's women on the flip side, like Eboni also mentioned, that don't have that support. They don't have the economic resource. And so I think it's more about celebrating the woman who Eboni's voice fits and saying, hey, do your thing. Happy you went from what I call the hood to the hills, and happy that you created this equitable lifestyle for your child. Do you, go girl. We see you. We support you. Awesome you. And then telling the other women, listen, sis, let's get to the table together. What resources do you need? What support do you need? How do we couple you with people maybe like Eboni who can help you figure out what this structure looks like? How do we get you mental health services? How do we make sure that your child and you, even if you were both in a deficit space of that lifestyle, how do we get y'all to start building equity on top of that? I think we need to not just celebrate single Black mama and resilience, but understand that shit is really hard. Whether you are a mama like Eboni who has help or a mama who has no help, it is challenging. And we have to figure out what is the challenges and how do we fill those gaps. So our single Black mamas, whether they are socially, economically, affluent or not, have the support that they need. Because although Eboni is saying, hey, listen, I got the money to put people in place, I'm sure mentally and emotionally, there's times where she may think, hey, wait a minute, I have a nanny who's helping me raise my kid. Am I okay with that? Is that my idea of what a mama would be? Do I feel like I'm giving my child enough time? Is the nanny getting these moments that I wish I could have? So with all of that being said, there's still gaps in spaces with, I believe, just being a mama where women need resources. And I'm not a mama, but I can't wait to be one. I am an auntie. I am all those things. But I do know my girlfriends who have kids, my number one thing is trying to figure out how I can support them with their self-care, their mental health, and even their time. And I notice that they really, really, really appreciate those things, whether they have economic status or not. All women deserve that type of love and support.
Sarah, go.
Yeah, so I'm going to chime in and I'm going to kick back a little bit here because first and foremost, I believe that everyone makes choices, but not everyone is measuring their consequences. And my fear in what we're talking about right now, it is one thing to be an empowered, a self-loving, a high self-worth woman that has made the conscious decision to have a child. And for the most case, in the majority, that's just not the case. Most children happen on accident. And so my fear is that people are going to hear this and be like, oh yeah, I'm an empowered mom, but are you? Are you in a space where you are empowered, or are you saying that because there is shame around a judgment that you may have made? Because oftentimes women are using sex to get love and men are using love to get sex. And so what that does is it creates a baby. And now oftentimes you end up as a single mother as a circumstance or as a consequence. Now, Eboni, I love what you did. You made a decision. You took power. You said, I'm going to do this. But we have to start having the real conversation about the consequences here. Sleeping with everybody and anything in these streets.
Whoa. I don't know any sisters who's sleeping with any and everybody in these streets.
Oh, there's plenty of them. This is the hookup culture, Torre. You're a man. You don't know.
I'm totally rejecting the notion that women are promiscuous. That's what you're saying. But the larger notion that you're talking real truths, but you never once in there talked about how a lot of men ain't shit and will get a woman pregnant and leave. That's not her fault.
What
she should not be ashamed because the guy left for whatever reason. That's not her problem.
So first and foremost, if a woman gets pregnant and decides to keep a baby, it is her choice, period. At the end of the day, unless a woman is raped, that is the only way that she is making the decision to lay down with someone and risk it all. Now, of course, could he shoot up the club or this? Are you on contraceptives? There are so many different questions. But imagine the power that we would have as women if we really took control over our bodies the same way Eboni did. If we really would stop letting strangers shoot up the club. Right? If we really would be mindful or being on contraceptives that are not going to allow us to get pregnant. Most people are not getting pregnant by choice. They're getting pregnant because of a moment of passion. Let's keep it real. And also, Torre, I will absolutely push back that this is a hookup culture. We know it. We've seen it. It's what happens in 2025. Now, I don't condone that. I actually talk about abstinence all of the time. But in this generation, I know you're a little bit older than me. Your curls have been here since Jesus. It is what it is. But what I would like to say is that in 2025, it's just normal. You go out and that's what you do. And this is why we are in a single mother epidemic, not one where you powerfully choose, but one where you miserably have to live with that consequence.
Eboni, you want to do it?
Yeah, let me say this. I actually agree with this point that I hear Sarah making. I do want all women, and this is why I'm so public in my story. I don't for 1 second suffer from the delusion that this is what I have done and the way I have done it needs to be the new world order, right? This is now how every Black woman needs to go about creating her family. This is not the eradication of the need and very real power of Black men and Black fathers. It ain't none of that. It is saying Black women, period, realize, hold, and exert the power of your womb accordingly.
Yes.
The womb is very powerful. It's very powerful. And there is a community of single Black fathers, and I know we'll talk about that in part two of this conversation, but there are very few Black men, period, that have the resources to go about pursuing that. You know why? Because you have to hire a surrogate. You have to buy the eggs. You have to pay for the expenses associated medically with bringing the child into the world. And you got to hire the nanny and the this and the that. So this is a very specific type of man that can do that. Most men, period, especially most Black men, can't afford to go about that power. So they are therefore in need. If they want to have progeny, if they want to have a genetic legacy, they are in need of what? A womb. They really are. And I do think there are some Black women, and I'm personally not going to necessarily put just promiscuity on it as much as I think that some women, period, Black women especially, are under the false belief that if I give this man this baby, number one, they think it will tether him to me for life. It will not. Yeah. And number two, they believe that it will curate some type of family fantasy that will manifest their dream-like existence. And sad to say, it has not historically and will not in the future.
But so that is an attempt.
It's very important, Touré, and I'm done. I do want Black women to just, if y'all don't get nothing from this conversation, have awareness and execution around the power of the womb.
Yeah, but within all of that, you have to have a man who values all that, who wants to stay, who doesn't see family as something to fear, but as something that he wants to be part of. And lots of Black men are part of their families. But when I look at a single Black woman, Doc, I don't say, oh, she made a mistake. She shouldn't have chosen. I'm like, there's probably a brother who did her wrong and is probably continuing to do her wrong by continuing to not be part. I don't even understand how you could have a child in the world and not be in the child's life. Even if I don't want to have a relationship with you anymore, I got to be there for my child. And, you know, Sarah, I think sometimes we don't see what the father is doing. You see that single mother, but you don't see what the father is doing. You may be judging somebody who's standing up, but you don't see it. But Doc, there's another aspect to this too that I want to touch on. The overwhelmed single Black mom may want to carve out time to try to find or have a healthy romantic relationship. How does she do that? How does she get into that whole dating world, which can be very difficult, while she's also prioritizing the life of her child?
I think first that woman needs to take a self-inventory and turn the lights on and see how she ended up in that situation or circumstance to begin with. I say that because oftentimes if she goes on and continues with her choosing a mechanism, she's going to choose the same thing that she calibrated to begin with. We all have feeding stations and we set these things up. And if we don't change up our appetite, we continue to choose the same food that we feast on. And so it's a duality of, wait a minute, you know, let's make sure we're not just choosing men who are good for the season that we're in. If that season is trauma, if that season is grief, if that season is despair, and we're choosing men who we look at and say, wait, he can be a good man for me and my child long term. So there is a duality of accountability where, yes, I agree with you, Touré. And that's one thing I actually do really, that's one of your perspectives I do really admire and I really do love is your perspective when it comes to being a husband and being a parent, not your parenting style, but being a parent in the sense of, listen, because you say, listen, my wife can do one thing that I cannot do, which is bring legacy in this world for me. And I love that. There's nothing I won't do for her. You cooked on that when you said that. And so I say that to say that women need to first take the inventory and say, wait a minute, let me figure out what I did and declutter so I don't make the same choice and end up in the same circumstance, because that's just called pathology. That's called the dysfunctional cycle that many of us in our community continue to do over and over again. And then once she does that, she has to be able to not put her ideology and clothe these men with it, but start to see these men for who they are. So they know, she knows who she's choosing and she knows who she's not choosing. I'm gonna wrap on this. It's too many times and too often that women in general, but Black women, because we're talking about Black women now, take their ideology, what they didn't have in a father, or what they did have, and they clothe men with this. And they make that man be their idea. And the moment that they see this man was never that, they gaslight him and say, hey, you're not a good man. No, he's not that he's not a good man. He's never been a good man. He ain't the man that you wanted him to be. And so now you have a problem with him. You knew this man was going to leave you from the beginning because he already had 2x2, 3x2, or 4x3, or 4x4. And when you have a man who has that, I always say this, and I'm going to say it on True Talk. I say a nigga going to be a nigga. And a man gonna be a man. And if you choose a nigga and you think because you are who you are is gonna change him, that's arrogant, that's disbelief, and that is delusional. And you gotta change the way you think. Wait a minute, we don't change a man, we don't keep a man, and we don't make him and give him anything he doesn't have. We water it. We got to see him for who he is, and we have to choose him or unchoose him. And that's the bottom line.
You may not have understood the dig that she made because she doesn't think that it's right that I don't spank. Never.
I understood that. First of all, I watched the show, so excuse you. I did understand the dig.
Will you ever spank your child?
Torre, we need to have a whole episode about the corporal punishment of it all, which I'm sure we will. I put the producer noted. Now, this is the beauty of at least single motherhood by choice. To get to Dr. Bryant's point, I have the power of bifurcation now. I made the informed and empowered decision to bifurcate my motherhood and parenting journey separate and apart from my romantic pursuit of love. So now I get to date, and I am dating for curious minds that want to know. I am now dating, and I am dating, ladies and gentlemen, with a level of clarity, with a level of confidence, and with a level of, the red pill community is going to love this, femininity.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But I personally haven't before, because I was so preoccupied with all the things I personally needed to do to survive. Go from, I love what you said, Cheyenne, the struggle to the hills or whatever it is.
Oh, from
right?
the hood to the hills, from the hood to the hills, girl.
Exactly, all of that. So now that I'm in the hills,
Come
right?
on, girl.
And now that I've got my beautiful, healthy baby, and now that I've got all the shit, and the career is boom, this is that. Now I get to date just purely on how this man makes me feel. Yes. Not because you're 6'2" and I need your genes, not because you got 7-8 figures and you're gonna put my kid in private school. I've taken care of all of that. And I have now bifurcated my ability to choose a man solely on the basis of my romantic feelings for him. And this feels very good for me.
There's a lot of discussion around how women can't raise a boy to be a man. Are single Black mothers trying to raise sons to be strong men, or somehow weakening them by shielding them, or not having enough masculinity in the home? Let's look at this video first.
We have to put into the mothers and empower them, because the boys are a product of their environment. If we give these boys all of this stuff that we're teaching them to show them manhood principles, and they don't get anything, they go back to what they were doing. And sometimes the mama just don't know.
Right.
Because if he blowing past your rules now in your house, he goes out here and blow past rules in the world.
Yeah.
I agree. I could not agree more. I think that so many, and I say this all the time, I have been saying this for forever. A lot of single mothers that are operating inside of survival, not thrive, but to survive, a lot of single mothers are raising women in their sons. Why? Because a woman cannot teach a man how to be a man. I don't know the nuances of how to be a man. I don't really know what kind of essence it is to be a man. All I can do is teach from my own perspective and experience. And inside of that, oftentimes what we as Black women do is we coddle our sons and we harden our daughters, because we're teaching our daughters how to go out there and be more masculine. And by nature, because we're coddling our sons, we're making them more feminine. And so I just really and strongly feel like it is so important to have men and women in the household, which brings me to you, Eboni. I do want to ask you this question, because you're talking about dating, you're talking about getting into the field of things. Let's talk about co-parenting. Right? Child support is always a divisive conversation, no matter what your socioeconomic status is. Mm-hmm. Let's check out this video, and then I really want to hear what you have to say about it.
It hasn't been easy, but it's been a blessing to understand and educate myself on her illness so I can make it as smoothly and as smoothly as I can for her and for my mental health. And so in that video, I was just talking about the struggles of just the day-to-day, not really having help from their, how should I say this? From the other half. I feel like there's a misconception with the custodial parent, which is the one who has a child all the time, and the non-custodial parent. Like the non-custodial parent think if they're just giving child support, that's all they should be doing. Boo-boo, no, that's not it. It is, to me, it's so much easier just like, oh, here's a few $100s every month. It is much harder for someone to be dealing with but raising a child every single day through all their different stages of development. It's hard. And I think people need to stop having this theory that, oh, because I support financially financially is very loosely, that I'm doing my part. And it's not.
Well, and I know for this woman too, she's a mom of 3 and one of her children actually does have special needs. So do you think, Ebony, that family courts and social systems made the single Black mothers the default parent or the default villain for demanding money and accountability? And do you think that money is enough when it comes to parenting?
So a few things. I used to practice family law, so I'm well versed in this child support, child custody area. A few things. No, I don't necessarily think that the court system has made the single Black mother the default parent. I also ring the alarm on this. This notion is changing in real time generationally. More and more and more fathers, and Black fathers at that, are fighting for at least joint custody legally and physically for a number of reasons. They might not be wanting to pay the level of child support required, or they might just want to be more active and present in their children's lives. I do want to point this rebuttal out, though, Sarah. I don't disagree in theory that a single mother, a woman, cannot adequately raise a son in terms of lived experiences of a man. But let us note that just this week, our former 44th president, Barack Hussein Obama, said that he didn't believe he had the tools or that he was equipped to raise a son. He sure did. So I think this is a much larger conversation that we as the Black community need to really be looking at when it looks like it is a whole community deficit amongst Black women for sure, but even Black men who grew up with no father, who grew up with inadequate modeling of what Black boyhood and Black masculinity look like, that we all need some healing around what the absolute honor and responsibility that it is to adequately raise a Black son, because I think we're all in deficit when it comes to it.
A lot of amazing Black women have solo raised a lot of amazing men. My father being one of them, who never lived in the home with his own father. He died before he was born. And not that one example, but there's a lot that women, mothers, can teach young boys about being a great man. You don't have to be a man. Now, obviously, he's going to look to men in the community and his family for other modeling, but she can lead him to be a great person in so many ways without needing to have the same chromosomes as him. There's so much that women teach us about being better men that I'm not necessarily looking at a man who was only raised by a woman and say, well, you don't know enough about him. Like, my God, who is that woman? I need to know who she is where I can judge, Cheyenne, how much you may or may not have learned about her yourself as a man.
Yeah, Touré, I agree with she can raise him to be a good person with good character. She cannot raise him to process like a man. She cannot raise him to emotionally understand how men deliver messages, how men feel the way they feel. She cannot raise him and teach him that. She can tell him, baby, stand up and hold it when you pee, but she cannot express to him the difference between how a woman processes heartbreak and a man processes heartbreak. She can't explain to him how a woman provides versus how a man provides. She cannot explain or even show by learned behavior how a man is the head and how a woman is the neck. Because what happens with the single mama is, when she is doing all these things on her own, she is not only having a disparity when it comes to nurturing and loving and just being able to be a full-on mama, she's also having to provide. So this son is seeing really or experiencing a woman who is showing up in the provision space as a man, but is clothed and seen as a woman. That's very conflicting for young boys, because what they're learning is, wait a minute, so I don't have a father in the house, but I'm seeing my mom take on the father role. I'm seeing her take on the male role. So I'm learning how to take on the male role.
What's the male role?
Looks like a woman. Traditionally, when you stop asking the same question, I can answer. Traditionally, the male role is to be the provider, and it is to protect traditionally. And those are the values that I have. Doesn't mean that a woman can't work. Doesn't mean that she can add bread to the table. It just means that he provides and he protects. So when he sees his mother, who's a woman, providing and protecting from a woman's standpoint, he doesn't get the opportunity to see how it does differ as a man. And lastly, the way his mother processes her emotions is exactly how he learns to process his emotions. So now when he becomes an adult and he's dating and he's trying to have this healthy communication, you now have two people in a relationship who process their emotions as a woman. That creates chaos. that creates an emotionally unregulated man. And that also makes it to where the emotional intelligence on a man and a woman
Let her finish. Let her finish.
are not affected. He has no choice, Ebony, are not affected.
But here's my question, Cheyenne, real quick before we move on. I love everything you said theoretically. Do we feel like we're seeing the majority of men show up in those ways in which you laid out? Because I don't think so. I don't think the majority of men are showing up.
Wait, hold on, Tori, be quiet. That's the question. Do I see majority of men show up unemotionally regulated? Absolutely. We have the highest incarceration rate. That's from emotional dysregulation, not being able to regulate your emotions in a way that helps you make better decisions, so you're not ending up in punitive consequences. We see men in relationships who flee, who sabotage, who emotionally abandon their relationship and create a single mama, who create baby mamas, who create broken families, who create broken homes because they emotionally can't stay in the discomfort of processing an emotion because they were raised by a mama who taught them how to process their emotions as a woman. And there was no man that showed them this is how equally yoked looks. This is how you don't fight fire with fire, but you have an effective communication with the woman who may be hormonal, who does bleed and have a menstrual every month you don't have, who may be suffering from postpartum because she just had a baby you didn't have. So when we're talking about that type of environment, a man who cannot process and regulate his emotions is adding more chaos and not peace. It's adding more broken.
But also factually,
I don't know where
Tori, hold on. Because I hear that, but then we can look at the big example of Cam Newton, who wasn't in some broken single mom shit, who was in The Preacher Man and his wife, and should have been taught all of these wonderful things of regulation and leadership and protection and honoring and commitment, and shows up in none of it. So I just don't know that any one of these models is a real.
That's perfect. Ray, hold on. This is not, you have no dog in this fight. Okay.
No, I have a dog in this fight because you're talking about men, and you're talking about men as if we are emotionally intelligent. We are not. Whether or not we were raised with a mother or not, we are not emotionally intelligent at all. So I don't even know what you're talking about.
So to your point, right, Cam Newton, great example. That is a man who did the total opposite of his father, which means there's parental issues. That shows daddy issues. That shows that whatever he's seen in the household that his father did do is something that he felt was not resolveful. It's something he felt wasn't something he wanted to embody. So what he did was went far fetched and did something totally opposite and created broken homes and broken families. I always say this, Ebony, just because a parent is present doesn't mean they don't present trauma in that child. And people always think, right, that, oh, mommy issues or daddy issues means the person wasn't around. No, it means the person could have been around, but they didn't have the proper tools because, like Touré said about his late father, didn't have a father in the home. I'm not saying you didn't have the tools, Touré, but when you don't have the father in the home, generational pathologies ago, sometimes you carry on those tools even when you're present in the household. This is why, and I'll wrap on this, I say therapy, coaching, and seeking wise counsel should be a lifestyle. It should not be a interventive measure. It should be a lifestyle where people say, let's have think tanks. Let's go to therapy. Let's get the proper tools. Let's read books. Let's commune with each other, Ebony, and talk about how we can parent. Because if we don't, we have men who are doing just what they're doing today. They're unemotionally regulated. They cannot sustain a family. They cannot sustain themselves. And they can't sit their ass in discomfort because they never were taught that it is healthy to feel emotions, but it is not healthy to get into your feelings because feelings cause problems, emotions don't.
The dysregulation, okay, fine. There are almost no emotionally intelligent men. Single mother, two parents, two women, doesn't matter. There are almost no emotionally intelligent men. For the most part, men are as unaware as they are unaware of the existence of emotions as if you thought you only had one arm, but you have two. But you just, I only have that. If you just thought you only have, that would be most men. They could not name their feeling. They could not change their feeling. They could not know how they feel.
That's not all men.
Tell each other. We do not talk about emotions with each other. We do not teach each other about emotions. We are allowed to feel anger and maybe joy around sports, but that's it. And when I go to my friends and say I have an emotional problem, generally, especially black men, it's like the vibe is kind of like, buck up. Be tough. Just handle it.
Yeah,
No,
Touré, that's your
not how
narrative.
we are. And that's
not
not
all
just a
men.
black man. That's all men.
That's not all men. We're not
Let
going
me
to
just chime in.
generalize.
Let me chime in because I keep hearing, and this is the fatal flaw, right? It's not gender, it's masculinity and femininity, right? We all have both. I've said this 1,000 times. The most masculine man still has 10 to 20% femininity. The most feminine woman still has 10 to 20% masculinity. It is necessary because you need it in order to be whole, right? In order to be able to function, win, provide for yourself, love your children. Both of these roles, essences, and energies are essential for you to be a human being. Now, that being said, most men are not taught how to be more emotionally regulated or intelligent because most times that's not in their wheelhouse. That is an opportunity that a feminine energy has to teach them. I once saw this really great example where women will be saying, you know, we're telling this story and it's like violet, and it was violet, but and we're talking about all the hues of violet. But the truth is most men only have purple, unless they are intentional about learning the spectrums of color, learning the spectrums in this case about emotion, right? So they do have to learn that. What I do want to say on this topic, because I don't want to get so far off topic that we forget the point. The point for me is that, ladies, for those of you that are listening, if you have a baby on accident the first time, never let a second man baby mama you twice. If you did it once, that's okay. The second time you wanted this to happen. And we as women have to elevate our self-worth, our self-love, and our accountability. And we have to take responsibility for our bodies. It is one way to do this the way that Eboni did it, because most women, over 90% of women, do not have the finances to be able to afford a night nurse, to be able to afford the nanny. Maybe they don't even have the circles to really have their girlfriends help because they're working 2 different jobs in order to keep the lights on. And so I want you to be mindful of, if you lay down with a loser, and loser could be whatever that means to you, okay? If you lay down with a bum, somebody that doesn't love you, that doesn't have a regulation, that doesn't have integrity, that isn't decisive, that isn't achievement oriented, that doesn't show up the way that you need, if you lay down and get pregnant by this person, you deserve it. And so pivoting over to how we are raising masculine daughters is because a lot of these resentful, angry mothers now that are really upset about the decision they made about getting pregnant in the first place, that are very much in their masculine because they're doing everything. You have to pay the bills. You have to keep the lights on. You have to pay the rent. You have to pick up. You're the chauffeur and the maid and the nanny, and you're all of these different things, and you're exhausted and overwhelmed. You start to see why a woman starts to teach another daughter, their daughter, you don't need a man. Well, why do you need a man if you do everything? Right? And those are the questions that really start to come up. And so, you know what? I'm going to ask a question, and it's a free for all. I personally think that we are raising men in our daughters. We are raising women in our sons, and we get back to baseline like Eboni is talking about. Touré, I'm just going to go ahead and ask, and you guys let me know that when you are with someone, and let's say that you do have a child, and you now finally as a woman coming back as being a single mother, let's say that you have a stepdad. Now the stepdad plays an important and controversial role, but at what point do we think that a woman should introduce her child to the next Mr. Right?
It would be a long time, to answer your question, Sarah, before a man has demonstrated, because this is now, I'm over 40. I am over 40. I'm only speaking for myself. So now this is not on what I think and what I hope and what I expect. Fuck all of that. We're going on demonstration. I'm a lawyer by trade. That means I'm classically trained in what? Risk mitigation. Okay. I am only going on the evidence that I see, and it would take me a substantial amount of time. I don't want to put a number on it, but something substantial for me to assess and be assured that this man has the values, the consistency. Because when we look at, by the way, data points that look at children of single parent households having higher incarceration rates, higher school suspension rates, just more disrupted life, it's not the single parent that is the issue. It is the disruption, right? So whether it's divorce, whether it's somebody moved out, it's the disruptive nature of the household functioning that causes the chaos and the dysregulation and the upsettedness in the child. So it would take me a very long time to say that this man has demonstrated consistency, values that are aligned, and just ability to frankly be worthy of sharing space with my daughter. And then I will enthusiastically invite that presence, because I think it's very important.
I think that's really great. And Dr. B, I've heard you talking on different platforms saying that you are excited about bringing a baby in your 42nd year, which is this year. So I know that you are excited about bringing a baby and not being married, which means you're single because we're not married, right?
Yeah, totally.
What can you tell men on how to show up for single moms in a dating scenario?
Well, first of all, I think that a man also is allowed to have the preference of not wanting to date a woman with kids. I don't think that makes him a bad man. I think that he may not want to show up for any children outside of which are his own. But if he decides he wants to, I don't think that's something that we here or any expert can tell a man what to do. I think that's a conversation that he has with that woman and says, hey, as a mother and as a woman, what is it that you need? Right? From me as a stepfather, what capacity are you comfortable with me being involved with your daughter or your son? What does that look like? What is the process? How slow or how fast would you like me to move? What do you feel? What kind of asset could I be to you first as the mama and to the child? Do you the type of mom that wants me to just kind of sit and be present and have that moral support, or do you want me to be hands-on? Because I feel like when it comes to someone's child, it's a very sensitive topic. And when you're talking about women who have little girls and they're bringing in a man, that is definitely a conversation that man needs to have that says, how hands-on would you like me to be, right? What does that look like for you? And what is your pacing when it comes to me and your daughter? What does me investing in her look like? Because I want to make sure I'm doing it in a way that you receive it. I always say ego is me giving you what I want you to have, but love is me asking, how can I serve you? And those two people are different. And I think that saying, how can I serve you and how can I serve your child, for me, at least, if I was a mama, would be the ultimate love language for me. How do you serve us? And lastly, I'll end on this. I would say, men, make sure that you are coupling them. Not the mom and the child are not separate. That woman and those kids or that child come as one. What do y'all need from me? Have y'all ate? Do you want to take a family vacation? I think coupling it and making sure you understand that you're not just marrying that woman, you are marrying her children. You're marrying everything that comes with her. So if you can't choose all of it, then don't choose her. But if you can, then show up and be a family. Because I'll end on this. Folks who are single mamas or single papas, they're not doomed. You can still go create a beautiful family, because Eboni, or I think one of y'all might have been you, Sarah, touched on it, that, a broken family can be much more impaired than a broken home. And so it's like, if you have a home, right, where a broken home just means you have one parent in the home. Okay. But a broken family means everybody in that house. And if everybody's in that house and there's more impairment in that house, then a broken family is causing way more impairment than if you just were to leave the home and co-parent in a healthy way and just create a broken home. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
And I do have an intact home. That's just for me and mine. It's just full. It's just me and her. We good.
I got a lot of respect for any man who takes the choice to help raise another man's child. He loves her so much that he's going to love and raise her children with her. I think that's a powerful and amazing choice that a lot of men are making, and I respect that. Okay, that's it for this episode of Truth Talks. Amazing episode, you guys, especially Sarah and Eboni. Other people were here. Appreciate that. But before we go, let's be real. Strength without rest is survival. Strength without support is exhaustion. And strength without space to feel, heal, or fall apart is not strength. It's silence dressed as armor. So tonight we leave you with this. Honor the single Black mother, but stop expecting her to carry the weight alone. If you're a single mom out here doing it alone, we see you. I see you. If you're struggling, we hear you. And if you're somewhere in between, you're not alone. Tap in with us, share your story, start the healing. This is Truth Talks. You already know. We don't do the latest tea. We speak to your soul. So hit that subscribe button. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Go have a baby. And we're going to catch you tomorrow night when we flip the script and ask about single Black fathers with Dimitri Wiley. Because right there, who cares? Just go have a baby. Keep supporting the show by telling a friend to tell a friend to check us out.
See what I mean? Bad parents get bad advice. Don't do it, y'all. Bad advice.
We'll be back weeknights at 8 p.m. with more conversation about parenting with non-parents. See you tomorrow night.
Good night, y'all.